Assalamu alaikum. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'een. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعل لي وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي أشدد به أزري واشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصل اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Welcome, dear friends. Inshallah, we will continue with our discussion on the 27th word on independent judgments. So there's a beautiful verse the author is sharing with us. So I'll read it. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. If they had only referred it to the prophet or to those charged with authority among them, the proper investigators would have found it out for them, which is a verse from the Quran, section 4, verse 83. And another translation was, whenever news of any matter comes to them, whether concerning peace or war, they spread it about. If they referred it to the messenger and those in authority among them, those seeking its meaning would have found it out from them. And the verse continues, if it were not for God's bounty and mercy towards you, you would almost all have followed Satan. And the author kind of presented the situation of this day and age as well, which we see how we are kind of very involved with politics and material science that is prevalent in terms of how the purpose of the universe is ignored, but what is presented by the materialist scientists, the technologies, and we're just influxed with many of the things that really do not serve any purpose in our lives. Right? So the basic teachings of Islam are being abandoned and degraded. They're even mocked by many. Right? So that's the challenge that this generation is kind of facing. And we kind of saw the example of the first generation of Islam, who was really, as the author presents, and I'm sure they were, who were really involved in knowing what their creator wanted of them. So not like the civilization that we find ourselves in, but the first generation, basically deducing from the word of the creator of the heavens and the earth, his wishes, they kind of were looking for what he wants of us in this life. Right? So they were not having discussions and conversations, all talked about who the sustainer is. Circumstances of social life, all looked at that. So their minds, hearts, and spirits were directed towards their creator, towards their Lord. But right now we can see our minds, hearts, and spirits are just all over the different places. So that's the situation that the author kind of was presenting, and we can relate it to our lives as well right now. So he's making the case that so there's some other things that need to be kind of promoted, or in a different way, how the message of the Quran needs to be presented. And even the Sharia that he's going to discuss in the next few sessions, that we're like the next parts, the fifth that we're going to study, he says this kind of needs to be paid attention, but we need to understand what Sharia really is, because it needs the belief aspect as well within it. You can't just be praying without having as a mechanical means, or doing yoga, for example. But it has to have, why are we prostrating? Why are we, who are we submitting to? What are we doing? So there has to be this conscious aspect, awareness in it. So he's saying the fifth is the 3 points of view make interpretation of the law earthly at this time. So earthly means worldly, only for this life, and prevent it from being heavenly, means towards God oriented. Right? So many of the interpretations or the rules, ordinances we are looking for. And he later on gives the example of shortening the prayers towards your journey, right? So we only are looking for basically the worldly kind of aspect of it without realizing what the heavenly aspect is. So whereas the Sharia is heavenly, Sharia means the ordinances, whatever God ordained things for us, how human beings need to live, what is expected of us, which we don't really pay attention to anymore. So there's this aspect of Sharia, which is, if we understand it is heavenly, like who is actually giving us the law and the way to live, right? So we need to know, like, realize that yes, our Lord is giving it. Like when we're even giving to charity, even giving to doing the, I don't know, 5 daily prayers. So who are we actually invoking? Who are we directing our attention to? Right? So the Sharia is heavenly revealed. And since interpretations of it make known its hidden ordinances. So the interpretations of the Sharia make known that there are hidden ordinances within that, which are also heavenly. So there are many aspects within the law itself, or the rule, or what the ritual that one may be doing, and it has the heavenly aspect, which is like God-oriented aspect. So the first, the wisdom of an ordinance is one thing. So there's the wisdom in why that rule or whatever that law is told to me. So there's the wisdom of the ordinance, while the reason for it is something different. So the reason for this ordinance is something different. So there's wisdom aspect, and why I'm doing it in this world is something different. Well, let me hear from Brother Ali. Please go ahead.
Wisdom here, I understand, the benefit looks to our world life. Benefits in Sharia rules looks to our world life. Understood? Earthly life, yes. Clear?
The benefit looks to our worldly life, correct? Yes. Are you continuing, or Brother Ali, or should I continue?
Mic is off.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so that's what I understood as well. So the Sharia is only being taken and is looking towards the benefits of the worldly life or the earthly life.
Not the Sharia, the wisdom
Oh.
of the Sharia rule.
Sorry, yeah, the wisdom of the Sharia. So the wisdom is of the Sharia is looking at the worldly life, where the reason is looking towards the heavenly life, to the God-oriented life, awareness, realization. So wisdom and benefit are the cause of its choice, not the means of its being necessitated and created. So of its choice, meaning of the ordinance or whatever we are doing, there's wisdom and benefit are the cause. There's wisdom and benefit for my worldly life as well, not the means of it being necessitated, not the means of its being necessitated and created. So tough to understand what the author is saying. Not the means of its.
Let's go to the first paragraph and read from there.
Okay.
3 points of the fifth, the 3 points of he's going to study. This is the only first point, first part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just go over the first paragraph of the fifth.
So 3 points of view. So 3 points is going to discuss, and this is the first point of view in terms of why interpretations of the law are earthly at this time. And due to the challenges, there's no godly aspect to it.
No, it prevents it from being heavenly.
Mhm.
Whereas, continue.
Oh, whereas the Sharia is heavenly.
Now, the point in Sharia rules is heavenly,
Right.
not earthly. Earthly benefit is just something like bonus.
Something like what?
Bonus.
Bonus, I see.
Bonus. Yeah. Sorry. That is not the ultimate purpose.
Mhm.
That's a kind of encouragement.
I
Ultimate
see.
purpose is obeying the order of the Creator, submitting your free will to His will, absolute will.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Continue.
And since interpretations of the Sharia make known its hidden ordinances. Yes. So interpretation of it, I mean I would understand the Sharia because they're heavenly, they're revealed.
No, because this interpretation of Sharia from heavenly perspective, it means obeying the will of the Creator perspective is also heavenly because I'm trying to understand my connection with my Creator. I am doing this. Why? Because my Creator asked me in his verbal explanations through demonstrating the practices of the prophets, asking me to use my free will in order to connect my free will to the absolute will of my Creator. That side is heavenly. Why do I bow in the prayer? It is good for your belly. No, 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 no. Because your Creator said, bow yourself before me in order to express that you are in admiration of my absolute qualities. Expressing your admiration, your acceptance of his absoluteness, infiniteness. Your existence belongs to him, not it doesn't belong to you. That side is heavenly because you are using the Sharia as a means of communicating with your creator. Whereas this ijtihad matters mostly looks at earthly side of the matter. How can I do while I am bowing down? Where shall I put my hand? Or this is not really the problem, but what are we going to do? What are we going to benefit when we fast? What is the point in just not eating anything? Isn't that a good thing to, for example, follow a certain dietary, or especially nowadays, money is important. Nowadays, how about dealing through the bank, but not really trying to get benefit from interest rates, but do my transactions only? For example, this kind of interpretations in this way or another way is something to do with my worldly, earthly concerns. That is the first and second will explain this further. Accordingly, we will read the following passage. The first, the wisdom. When it says wisdom is different. Reason is different. Wisdom of ordinance is one thing, while the reason for it is different. Because in English, it is not clear. Wisdom is hikmah in Arabic. The reason, illah, the real necessitating reason. It means God's will. Wisdom is God's hikmah, wisdom. Reason it refers to God's will.
I see. So one is like worldly benefit, the wisdom?
Yes. Now, generally, yes.
Generally, I see. And the reason is basically to acknowledge God in a way, the ultimate purpose. That's the reason. Illah
Sorry, reason?
is to acknowledge God, basically, while
Correct.
doing.
Illah, illah.
I see.
For
And
example,
yeah, what
what
about
praying?
hidden? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, while I am fasting, I may get some healings from it. It means bodily benefit from it. Yeah, that is just bonus. Whereas, while I am fasting, I must be aware that I am acknowledging the food I am giving does not belong to me. Its owner is the owner of the universe. He asked me, this is my food, this is my property. You can only use it according to my permission. While you are obeying the permission, acknowledging him is worship. Otherwise, if you don't have this consciousness, you are hungry for dietary reason. Hikmah. Thank you. Wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. Yes. So one question I had was, what are the interpretations of the Sharia? Any example for that? And what are the hidden ordinances?
Why do we, for example, isn't that okay to fast not according to the according to the lunar system, what solar months? Why not? Then argument goes on. You can interpret it in many ways. That is ijtihad.
I see.
Yeah, just a simple example.
So even in those interpretations, we have to look for the heavenly perspective, godly.
Now, for heavenly perspective, there is no ijtihad. Only if the reason, the words are replace each other. If the reason of talking about whether God wanted me this way or another way, not looking at the or looking to the earthly benefits, but trying to understand what exactly God wanted me to do just in order to obey him. If it is really prescribed in the Quran or through Sunnah only, this kind of arguments are different, but looking for the wisdom side is something else. The example will give, explain it more. We didn't read, we didn't read it yet. If we read it, it will become slowly clear, inshallah.
Inshallah, thank you. Yes. So let me read again. The wisdom of an ordinance is one thing, which is the hikmah, and while the reason for it is something different, which is the godly aspect, the illah. Wisdom and benefit are the cause of the ordinance's choice, not the means of its being necessitated and created. And the reason is the means for the Sharia's existence. So to acknowledge God is the reason, the illah is the means for the Sharia's existence. And the wisdom and benefit basically are mostly for this world, but they're not the means of it being necessitated and created. What does that mean? Not the means of that ordinance being necessitated and created because it's just worldly benefit. So it has to extend to my eternal life. So, which is the illah part, which is why the Sharia exists, the rule exists. So he gives an example. For example, the obligatory prayers are shortened while traveling. 2 rakats are performed. The reason for this permission of the Sharia is the journey. The reason, the illah part for this permission. So one has to acknowledge God about why they're doing. The shortening is there for the journey. While its wisdom is the hardship, the benefit, the bonus for this worldly life is because but traveling, I'm going to be like using multiple means of transportation that makes me tired. So that's the hardship. Although it's much easier these days to travel than before. If there is the journey but no hardship, the prayers are still shortened. For there is the reason being the journey. Basically, that's the permission is given for the journey to acknowledge God. Right? So the illah part is important. But if there's no journey yet hardship, it may not be the reason for shortening the prayers. Thus, contrary to this fact, the view at this time is to set up the benefit and wisdom in place of the reason. As I thought was very interesting, because that's how I see in civil society how it's promoted, is to set up the worldly benefit and wisdom in place of the reason, and the real reason, the illah part, is ignored completely. And to make its judgment in accordance with that. Such an interpretation is certainly earthly, not heavenly. Okay, any comment on the first? So the example, I think, makes it pretty interesting because many people travel, and it's a common thing these days. And the permission of the Sharia is the journey, basically, to acknowledge the illah part, the godly aspect of it. So knowing why the permission is given, who is giving the permission is very important rather than the worldly benefit of shortening it and just without realizing, recognizing why did I shorten my prayer? Is that the point?
Why am I shortening my prayer? Because God said, when you are on journey, shorten it. I mean, you can't shorten it. Now, this is fiqh aspect of it. You shorten it as a command or permission is disputed. But that is what God asked. But I'm not really having any difficulties in my journey. I'm very comfortable as if I am at home. Look at my reason is working. On what? Not being on journey, but on comfort side. But Sharia doesn't say if it is comfortable for you, if it is disturbed with you, in general, we are not passing fiqh rule here, jurisprudence here. In general, it's an example. If you say, I'm a journey, or on a journey, my God said, if you are on a journey, you can or you must, depending on understanding, shorten your prayer. Okay, that is what God asked me. But looking for the benefit, comfort side is wisdom. Looking for the reason why you are doing it, God asked me to do this. Clear?
Yes, Alhamdulillah. Clear. So the reason is important, the illa part. Inshallah. Okay.
Be careful from here. The ijtihad, this independent judgment, it's translated, or experts' judgments. Now, ijtihad, the judgment made by experts. So, ijtihad is concerned mostly with
Only
wisdom
pick
side.
up if it's
Yeah, wisdom, practical side. Now, illa is important if you go into the practical side interpretation. Now, every community has their different living conditions, and there will be a huge argument about it. And the people don't know the details of Islam, and really, generally, they don't know what Islam is. The Muslims don't know what Islam is, let alone the others. They will say, these Muslims are just talking trash. Why? Just criticizing each other. Because reason is not, illa is not understood by the people. It is not the priority now. That is why the author is going to say, stop this making ijtihad on wisdom matters. Just concentrate on your worship, obedience of God. Concentrate on this side. And let the people know that they have to submit their free will to God's absolute will. That is the essential need nowadays. That's why at the beginning it said, yes, ijtihad is an Islamic concept and correct, but we should not get engaged in it now. Now, it is not the time because reason is broken. Do you understand? Did I make sense? Reason is this connection between me and my creator connection is broken. Everybody says, for example, you hear nowadays, when you fast, you will get healthy. It will be better for you. You will understand the needy people, hungry people's feeling. These are all wisdoms. The other people say, what do they say? Oh, I know. I am on diet. I know how the hungry people feel about it. I don't have to fast. You see the point missed. Is it clear?
not really. So you're saying the illa part is missing in a way, right?
In this age,
Yeah,
in this day and age.
I see. Okay, I see a hand up, Farah. Go ahead.
Yes, the way that I understand it is the idea that the reason that, let's say, one fasts or prays or conducts these acts of ritual is for, as we've discussed, the point is acknowledgement. And that acknowledgement is what is being described here as the illah, or the reason why the one that you're actually doing it. And that reason, or the idea of understanding why you're doing it, which is to acknowledge your existence and to sort of confirm that truth in you. If because that is missing or that is broken or not well understood, people are focused more on the wisdom side of it. And that is making, why the author is arguing or against the idea of ijtihad on those matters, because ijtihad is particularly for the wisdom side, but does not help establish the reason, which is, it seems like one reason for everything, which is the fact that, in maybe more very simplistic words, because God said so. My question though is, like, I think we also in this day and age, come up against this idea of, like, how do we know that God said so? Because, you have the Quran, you have the Sunnah, but then you also have the aspect of human or expert interpretation, when the Quran and the Sunnah are not as clear as it is for certain verses. So even in the Illah version, even as we strengthen and try to understand that, I think there are still questions or doubts that people bring up around the fact that, okay, if something is not written clearly or said clearly, then we are following the opinion of, even though they're experts in our understanding or in the understanding of the Muslims, they're also humans. They lived at a certain time. They tried their best, but they may not be speaking for all of time, and so forth. So I just wanted to also bring up this aspect as we discuss this problem.
In this respect, the arguments not be concentrated on Abd Mabud, created and the creator acknowledgement relationship, or creatures acknowledging their creator relationship, but trying to understand whether it was really God's order, or, for example, definitely it has to be practiced, or depending on the conditions. That is, again, that still remains in the reason category, not wisdom category. Wisdom is not to be discussed. And reason category, depending on the madhab, they are all almost established. Hanafis follow certain life, Shafis follow certain life. You know better than I do. That's your specialty. So then we don't really mind about following Hanefi, Maliki. No, whatever it's expert, you follow it, that is, you are right. But wisdom side shouldn't be the subject of ijtihad. That is what I understand from the author's point of view.
I see. Thank you. I think Faria has her hand up.
I just wanted to clarify something that Brother Early shared earlier. So we're saying that the wisdom part in and of itself is not enough. So for example, when the example was given about, oh yeah, I'm fasting, because it makes me realize the needy people out there, makes me more empathetic towards others and so on. And at the same time, Brother Lee, you mentioned that, well, yeah, I know all this, but I don't need to fast, right? Like, I know the wisdom behind, like, I understand, what goes on, there are people out there who are needy. So like when you were presenting these two little scenarios, I was thinking, so wisdom, I don't know, I'm trying to understand. So the point being that wisdom in and of itself is not enough, but it must be accompanied with a little bit touching upon to what Farah shared about acknowledgement of the source of your existence. But then when you're fasting, when you're doing the act, there's the practicality of it involved in it as well, right? I don't know, maybe just wanted to clarify those 2 points, or like what was being shared at that time.
All right, thank you. So what exactly is the question?
So, yes, I'm wondering, basically, I have to do the practical side of thing. This is what we were saying. I have to do the practical side of thing, not necessarily to get the wisdom from it, but definitely to acknowledge the source of its existence, rather than not doing the practical side of it. And I'm like, yeah, I can get the wisdom of anything without doing the practical side. That was my question. The practical side is needed for what purpose? Or me following the practical side is needed for what purpose?
I see. Thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
That's why we shouldn't be interested in practical side, earthly side. We should be interested in relationship, acknowledgement of my creator in my practical life, rather than wisdom side. That is what the author is trying to tell us.
So although we're practicing practically whatever the act, but the aspect of the illa part to recognize is the main concern that we should be involved in.
Now, not the practicing it,
Mhm.
by misunderstanding it. If I want to acknowledge my creator, I have to put it into practice, my acknowledgement. But practical side means which kind of benefit I get when I fast or pray. If you pray, you regulate your day. You will be aware of, time is passing something. This is practical side. I shouldn't be interested in it. I should be interested in when I pray, I acknowledge my creator. Farah said it well. Acknowledgement. Now, acknowledgement is important. And in this acknowledgement itself, there is no matter of ijtihad. But how do I do it, this acknowledgement? It may be a matter of ijtihad. But this ijtihad has been already settled. But nowadays, people are trying to make ijtihad, new ijtihads. Somewhere we read it at the beginning. New ijtihads according to practical life, not the practicing the Sharia. No, according to practical life. Now, without banking, I cannot do business transactions. So, what shall I do now? Do you think it is really haram to deal with institutions which are working on interest or not? That is the subject of ijtihad, and author says this should be set aside, not to be discussed because people are not ready to digest exactly how can I put my worshipful relationship to my creator? How can I practice my creator? They are looking to make money through business. I'm not saying they shouldn't make money. The reason is to continue their business, not to be in contact with their creator. Look, area is different now.
Understood. Thank you. Okay. So the second, the view at the present time looks primarily to worldly happiness. whereas the view of the Sharia looks primarily to happiness in the hereafter and to happiness in this world in second place and indirectly as the means to the hereafter. So happiness in this world as the means to the hereafter. That is to say, the view of this time is a stranger to the spirit of the Sharia. I thought that was interesting. So the view of this time is a stranger to what the Sharia is, the spirit of Sharia, in which case the views of this time may not make interpretations in the spirit of Sharia's name. Any comments on this, the second one? So the spirit of the Sharia, the worshipful attitude that one has, so is completely foreign or stranger to what the view of this time is in following certain ordinances, or the example of banking, for example, or doing business is to make money rather than having a worshipful attitude in it. So the views of this time may not make interpretations according to that worshipful attitude.
Now, if someone comes to you, I'm trying to present it as simple as possible because it will show that I understood myself. I don't know, but I'll try my best. If someone comes to you, why should I pray? If you say, because you are created, you have to acknowledge your creator. Do you think the person asks this question, why should I pray, asks this question in order to get the answer you said now? Because you have to acknowledge your creator. Do you think people are asking this question for this to get this answer? Or it means, why should I pray? Means, why God wants me to pray in your religion, in your religion. Does God need it? For example, looking for wisdom. Because the problem is, nowadays, people's time, people's concerns are foreign, stranger to the spirit of the Sharia. So they are doubtful about the Creator. They are doubtful about their responsibility before their Creator. Most of them are saying, God is the creator of the universe, nothing to do with my life. I have my free will, I can do anything I do here. Even God created me, okay, I'm exercising my free will, what's wrong with it? So, not connecting in order to acknowledge his creatorship, ownership, not connecting his being to him, but to the creator, but he is looking for his own worldly benefit. Why should I limit my time for prayer? Do you see the even questions and concerns and looking for a kind of interpretations have a hidden agenda that I'm not going to submit myself to my creator. I am not going to acknowledge an authority over me. It means just I want to get a permission in order to make my feelings comfortable so that when I don't pray, I will feel comfortable because religion seems to be correct, but I don't want to submit to it. So let's make it in an acceptable form. Now you can pray from your heart. Oh yeah, I can. Do you understand? You understand? Your heart, purity of your heart is important. You don't have to pray. in your heart you can pray always. They love it, eh? But look at this reason, looking for reason, worldly benefit. That is why the spirit of this time is stranger to the spirit of Sharia. Sharia means acknowledgement.
Inshallah, thank you. Okay, so the third. There is a rule: necessity makes permissible what is forbidden. Necessity. This rule is not universal. So long as it is not by way of what is forbidden, necessity makes licit what is forbidden. So there's by way of what is forbidden. So what if somebody intends to do forbidden, then necessity is not permitted, but as if it's not by the way of what is forbidden, then necessity makes licit what is forbidden. But if something has become a necessity due to abuse and for illicit reasons, this necessity may not be the basis of ordinances permitting it, nor form an excuse. For example, if through ill choice, so the choice is already ill, someone makes himself drunk in an unlawful way, according to the scholars of the Sharia, his actions act against him and he may not be counted as excused. So his actions act against him and he may not be counted as excused. If he divorces his wife, the divorce is in force. And if he commits a crime, he receives the punishment. But if it is not through ill choice, the divorce is not in force. Neither does he receive punishment. And for example, even if an alcoholic is addicted to alcohol to the degree of necessity, he may not say it is a necessity and lawful for me. So the way I understand this, basically, if so ill choice, if somebody has already the poor choice that they're doing, and the example was using someone gets drunk in an unlawful way, right? So according to the scholars of the Sharia, so the ones who are interpreting this, the Sharia, the laws, so any action because it was already ill-intentioned is gonna go against him.
Use the traffic accident.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Use it. You use it. Somebody gets drunk
Uh-huh.
as a result of his free choice. Then modern civilization, modern law says, oh, he was drunk. He didn't mean it.
Right.
Sharia says, no, he got drunk as a result of his own free choice. And he knows, well, like everybody does, that when you are drunk driver, inevitably you will get involved into an accident. That's inevitable. You cannot control yourself. This happens. He, knowing this, knowingly has chosen to drink alcohol and got drunk and get involved into the accident. He said, I didn't mean it. Yes, you meant it by getting drunk first. Now, this is just an example. This way, this paragraph, which is the third, tells us lots of things in our life illicitly became necessities. Do you understand? Did I make sense? illicitly became necessary. For example, I'm working. So at work, I cannot go and pray. I have to not pray. And look, did you think about if I can work but still pray or not? So did you make an arrangement with your employer? Look, I am a Muslim. I pray this time, this time, this time. But I can stay half an hour later, late in my work to compensate it. Why don't you make this arrangement? There is an option. It is not necessity then. So people assumed, or this age enforced lots of artificial needs in the form of necessities. So everybody will say, no, I'm on the train. I cannot pray. Why not? I do pray. I take my always sajjada with me and get off the train, pray, and get on the next train in the subway. I do that. If the prayer time is in danger, it means passing over. So it is possible. But because of my comfort in life has taken the priority in my life, so I want Sharia to adopt my comfort, worldly benefit. Do you get it? Did I make sense? Now you can summarize it, or anybody, Awesome.
Okay. Now, the example is good that you gave about the prayers, for example. So we're making like an excuse because I'm at work and then the conditions at the work, I feel weird or awkward in praying. So I take that and make that as an excuse that not to pray, basically. Whereas I have the free will and I can make the arrangement with my working conditions to say, yes, I I need to pray at that time, so I will compensate for it. So that was a good example, I think, to me, that to make sense. That not to live with just for the comfort of this life, right? Make an excuse for not obeying the acknowledgement of or have a worshipful attitude towards my Creator. Okay, so there is a comment, our Sharia so-called is revolving around our worldly life rather than the other way. So our comfort, basically the worldly comfort that we seek, rather than the purpose and the reason of the illa part. Okay, let's see if we can continue this. Okay, let's see a little bit more. Thus, at this time, there are many matters which have reached the degree of necessity and have taken on the form of a general calamity afflicting people, and which, since they have arisen from ill choice, illicit desires, and forbidden acts, may not be the basis of ordinances permitting them and making what is unlawful lawful. So many things that we are conditioning ourselves with for the worldly benefit that we're getting used to, or civilizations, how the civilization is adopting many things, and we say, okay, it has become necessary to do many unlawful things. However, since those who make interpretations at the present time make those necessities the basis of ordinances of the Sharia, their interpretations are earthly. Those who make interpretations at the present time make those necessities the basis. So they consider the worldly situation, comfort, benefit and make them necessities, the basis of ordinances of the Sharia. And their interpretations are earthly, the products of their own fancies tainted by philosophy, and cannot be heavenly or revealed or in accordance with the true spirit of the Sharia. However, if exercise of authority concerning the divine ordinances of the Creator of the heavens and the earth, and interference in the worship of his servants is without the Creator's permission, that exercise of authority and interference are rejected. The exercise of authority concerning the divine ordinances are done without the Creator's permission. That exercise of authority and interference are rejected. For example, a number of the heedless and neglectful approve the changing of some of the marks of Islam, like the Friday sermon, and substituting the language of each country for Arabic for two reasons. Okay, let's read the first reason. So that in that way the mass of Muslims will understand current politics, which is what is prevalent in the Friday sermons in many places. But current politics has become so intermixed with lies and trickery and evil that it has become like the very whisperings of Satan. Current politics, full of lies and trickery and evil, that it has become like the very whisperings of Satan. However, the pulpit where the khutbah is delivered is the seat of delivering divine revelation. So political rumors do not have the right to rise to that high position. So it's a sacred position, pulpit, which is to deliver divine revelation, not to discuss political matters, which are satanic whisperings, like the satanic whisperings. The second, the Friday sermon is for understanding the admonitions of certain surahs of the Quran. Yes, if the majority of the Islamic nation conformed to the essential teachings and incontestable matters of Islam and the ordinances which are well known and carried them out. So just warnings and admonitions of picking up certain verses of the Quran and discussing them. But that is if the majority of the people are conforming and understand the essential teachings of Islam and the ordinances, the rulings which are well known and carried them out, if they're doing it. Then the reading of the sermon in the well-known language and the translation of the Quran. And there's a note, the true translation of the Quran is not possible, which I think is a very important point. Right? The reading of the sermon in the known language, or whatever, the local language, and the translation of the Quran. Although that's just a translation, because the true translation is not possible. If it was possible, it might have been desirable in order to understand the theoretical matters of the Sharia and its subtle matters and obscure, abstruse teachings. If it was possible to understand like that whole translation, exactly what it is saying, the theoretical matter of the Sharia and subtle and more obscure teachings. Theoretical matters of the Sharia and its subtle matters. But the well-known incontrovertible ordinances of Islam, like the 5 daily prayers, fasting in Ramadan and zakat, and the unlawfulness of murder, fornication, and wine are neglected. So the ordinary people are not in need of learning their necessity or unlawfulness. but through encouragement and warning to be reminded of those sacred decrees, and through their sense of belief and feelings for Islam being stirred, to be prompted, encouraged, and reminded to conform to them. All right, I'm kind of lost in what I'm reading actually. So I think we can do this next time, inshallah, the second. What do you think? Inshallah, because the time is up.
Yeah, I think we can. So that's my idea. Yeah. My option is let's stop it.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the first point about, yeah, but most of the khutbahs and the Friday sermons are basically discussing certain verses or maybe just discussing the situation as well. So that happens as well. So the second is making the case in a way about there's a criteria on when to use certain verses of the Quran. That means if people understand the essential teachings. But I think we can discuss that more, inshallah, next time. Inshallah. So I'll stop here for today. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma alamtana innaka anta alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Bi hurmati suratul Fatiha. Thank you, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum